Hi everyone, my name is Spiridon. I'm a designer and publisher from Germany, and I take care of art books. I like art books, I collect them, I make them, I design them, I help artists self-publish, and fine folks at ImagineFX thought it would be a good idea to ask me a couple of questions where the answers probably would help you with your own approaches of self-publishing and designing and crowdfunding. I hope you find them interesting, I hope you find them helpful, and enjoy. I think what I'm looking for when I'm considering to work with an artist, when I'm looking through Instagram and ArtStation and all these places to find someone, is pretty much the same that everybody's looking for. I think it's about originality. I think it's about finding the special something that nobody else has. It could be also the first time that someone is doing a specific thing. If someone is a pioneer at a specific style or a medium or something, then it's always really, I don't know, like it's engaging to work with someone like that. But most of all, it's really important to just have someone who is also as dedicated about finding the right material for the product or the product itself, to find someone who is so passionate about the good product as I am myself, someone who respects professional boundaries, someone who is really, I don't know, who just understands what the whole thing is about and is not unfriendly and unkind and has a certain sense for responsibility. All that and a combination of maybe an interesting IP and not too much fan art or not fan art at all this makes the best recipe to find the right person to make an art book with. No, I don't think an art book has to be completed when you approach a publisher. The material should be there. I would say that you should have the material that will go into the art book finished, because the artist probably doesn't think about that aspect, but a publisher will have to find quotes as soon as possible. And you cannot know how big a book will be if you don't know how much artwork is in it, or how much of it has to be curated and maybe doesn't fit the concept of a book if there is one, all these eventualities, right? It's also, I mean, it doesn't mean that you cannot go to a publisher with a finished book. It just means that it's not necessary. If you have a finished book, maybe aspects of it are finished. Maybe you figured out the design. Maybe you know exactly what the book will look like. Maybe you even have a printer you want to work with and you want to propose that to the publisher. All these things are possible, but not a must. But the thing that I would say is a must is finish the work and bring your entire bulk to the publisher, and don't, you shouldn't be like, I still need to finish 12 pages or something like that. Don't do that. Have everything ready and then you go to the publisher. If it takes longer, then just wait with going to a publisher. That's what I would say. I think what really makes sense is if you approach a publisher, or if you approach me or whoever you want to work with a certain outline of the book. So what is necessary aside from the art is to know which kind of art you want to print. It makes no sense to give the publisher or anyone else, or even the designer you want to work with if you want to self-publish, a folder and be like, oh, so I don't want this piece in here. I don't know why I put it there. Look over it first. See which ones you can possibly imagine to have in there. Consider to maybe have pieces in there that you would maybe not want to have them in there very prominently, but maybe it's a kind of a sketch or a section that someone can take and elevate to something else, like a background graphic that is like really enhanced and bigger, and things like that also play a role. Do you want to have a lot of text in it? Do you want to have maybe also photography in it of yourself where you're drawing and doing stuff? Do you want tutorial content in it? the outline. So if you know what will be in the book, that is certainly something that will speed up the process of creating the entire book. I think what I can offer an artist, or what people like me can offer an artist, is probably the most stuff that comes from experience with crowdfunding campaigns. So we know about the kind of marketing that has to be used for making a campaign a success. Maybe even to work with agencies that increase the visibility. I haven't done that so far. I don't work with any of that. Everything that I'm doing with campaigns is organic, but there are people who work with other companies that do that, and that's absolutely legit. What else? It's the design. If you are, not every artist is automatically a good designer or feels safe to design a book, or maybe they don't want to, because sometimes you're your own worst client. Like when I'm, for example, making my own business cards, it's always horrible for me. I absolutely hate doing that because you're your own harshest critic in the end. So maybe you need someone to balance all that. Maybe you need someone who gives you a reality check. Maybe you need someone who will tell you this is not working because it's not cost efficient. Maybe you need someone who tells you when the hell do you want to finish all that. It's impossible to do that because the campaign will only be so long and blah, blah. And maybe you're very ambitious and maybe you're like, yeah, but I want to add an oil painting to every book in the front page, something like that. But you don't want someone who will just say yes to everything that you're doing, and then in the end you're sitting there and have no idea how you got there. So yeah, you need someone to balance all of that. That's probably what I could offer when it comes to these things. So educating about the common mistakes of crowdfunding campaigns is something I'm very passionate about. I even made a YouTube video about this before. There's a topic that is really important to me, which is the idea of finishing a book before you launch it. That's a common mistake that some people do. They also usually understand that that was the wrong approach. Some of my friends have done this in the past, and were after the campaign they were like, why the hell did I do that? That was just the worst idea ever. You don't want to taint the entire project. You don't want to start doing this with the mindset of, yeah, this is my IP, I want to bring it out there, and then in the end it will just be a drag of finishing this, right? Like when you have this this book that you're working on and you wanted to present it to all these people and you have the support and you know you will get this amount of money, maybe if it's not what you expected with, that makes it even worse. And then you will be like, oh shit, it's this thing that I have to do now. It's this thing that I have to work on. And I actually don't want to anymore because there's more exciting stuff to do and it will become a drag, and then you don't care about it anymore. There were artists who did this and sometimes even threw the stuff away or canceled or never delivered. And that's something you want to avoid at all cost. The second thing that I'm that I'm really passionate about to teach about is work in the right format. When I did my first crowdfunding campaigns with Emil Amundsen's books, the thing was that he worked in all kinds of different formats, right? So sometimes he would work in a square format for Instagram because it was just a sketch. He just sketched every day and he didn't really think about making this a book. It didn't occur to him until I came around, and that made it very tough for me to put everything together because, of course, it had an influence on the layout. So what happened was that sometimes I would just throw him back this bulk of work and would be like, yeah, I need a background. You have to extend this to fit the format because we need this as a full page and all that. And he had to do that. It helps if you think about these things first. And another common mistake that happens is the whole calculation and cost efficiency thing. So it really helps when you partner up with someone who encountered these problems a couple of times before. you want to make sure that you don't have to pay on top of everything else. It happens. It especially happens in a time of crisis when paper, for example, gets really expensive. It happens to the best. It is something that is also unpredictable. There's also unpredictable things that can happen to you. You know, like there are situations that can drive up cost for many reasons. Or you want to have the book done even though it didn't reach the goal or wasn't funded in a way that you were like, okay, I expected this to be 200% and then it wasn't. All these things. Calculating costs in the end will make sure that this becomes a reality and this becomes a product, because in the end, even if you don't do it for the money, you will need money to finish the product. What makes a good art book? What makes a good art book? I think that's a tough one. I think don't underestimate the aspect of creating something that the buyer will like, right? Where they have the idea of, I got something for my money. So a big art book is probably a good thing. If it's not big, then it has to be about, if it's a small art book, it probably should be about work that hasn't been published anywhere else. Not even on social media, maybe. Or teased with a couple of pieces, but not everything. A good art book. Maybe it's an illustrated novel. You know, I mean, it's borderline art book-ish. So maybe that's something. Good material is good for an art book. If it's high quality, if you went out of your way thinking about how it will be presented and not just about the content put together, but the presentation merging with the content. Maybe that's something that you want to consider when you make your art book. And anything that makes it interesting for your crowd. It's really highly subjective what makes a good art book. For me, it's not too much text or text in the right sections. Make it at the start and at the end, and don't bring too much text in the middle or only every chapter or something, because you look differently at text as you look at art. It's just a different kind of stimulus, and it sometimes feels like a distraction. You don't want to distract people. You want to keep them in a flow. So yeah, that's what I think makes a good art book. I think it always helps when the artist knows a little more about what they're going for, if they have this idea about what the book will be. It also helps if they possibly can be influenced into something better. if you have an absolute clear idea and know exactly which paper stock you want, which kind of cover and all that, and you get a suggestion that it doesn't work, maybe because of cost, maybe because the cover with these colors doesn't work on that specific paper or stock, and all these aspects, then it really, again, depends really subjectively on how well you work together with your designer or your publisher. But I like the involvement, because when I'm working with someone, with an artist, then I'm showing them, so what do you think about this paper for this kind of art in this kind of book with this kind of cover? And we need some fifth color here and maybe some gold there. And it, of course, feels better if the artist approves of things or maybe has an even better idea. You know, so how involved should the artist be? Well, very. Should the artist decide by himself what will be best for the book? No, not at all. This is kind of like the question, what my favorites are, right? Or it kind of isn't. So sometimes an art book can be classic and nothing special, but I think this question probably is answered best when considering what kind of art books are out there. If you're looking for a book that has an entire concept there and has also the background and the paper and the all presentation merged into one thing where you dive into a world. I think it is Compete's book is the best, The Fairies of the Fault Lines. I have the first edition. That's the one I'm talking about. I didn't get the second edition yet, but the first edition was something that she designed herself. In fact, most of the books that I'm probably going to name here to answer this question will be books that's what I like the most. If the artist has an understanding of design as well and just handle everything, right? If it feels whole. So Fairies of the Fault Lines is a really good book when it's about fantasy, maybe a journal style thing because of the handwritten way that everything is made in production, because she went to the printer, she knows the printer, and she talked through with about everything. All the details are set. Another book that I've been stealing from, the paper. Thank you, Victor. Is Victor Kalbachev's Inspire. Again, an artist who knows about design and an artist who is really dedicated about paper, about the material, about what to use. He used 2 different papers depending on if he had colored illustrations or if it was sketches, then he used a little bit more yellowish paper. That's something I totally stole. That was just really cool to see. I hope they have still copies out there. You should get them. Design-wise, I think Brent Ash is making really good books. I think he's a spectacular designer. I really like looking at everything he's doing with packaging and all that. And it's the books that he's making are really something where you are like, okay, someone did something really smart and clever about that. Zine Chin has a book, Rechild. It's a big book, and he used a specific paper stock. It's really interesting because he works also with vibrant colors, but also with pastels, and the colors are really well executed, I think, on the paper. There probably was more work to it in the sense of probably discussing things with the printer and in everything with post-production. But it just feels really great. If you open this giant book and you have all these amazing paintings on there with this great paper, which just feels great. It's awesome. And when it comes to books with a lot of written text in it, with written content, I think everything from Taschen is really good. They know typography. They know how to handle text, even in multilingual books. I've been looking at their work since forever when it comes to this. Yeah, that's it. That's probably the books that I would look at. There are probably way more, but for now, this is what I remember. Advantages and disadvantages. Think with this question, it probably is the same thing. The absolute pro argument to do it yourself and not with a publisher, I would say, is to have the full control. That's what you have on one side, full control. The worst thing you can do, like the worst thing about self-publishing yourself is full control. So it's basically the same thing, right? So you have everything you have to take care for, but also get paid for it, but also have the full risk for it. The more you give away, the more someone else will handle something for you. You win time, but you spend money. Time is money in publishing more than in any other job I know. I mean, which is probably a bold statement, but right now I'm just thinking this is probably it, right? Time is money in publishing. Do you want to handle the design? All right. The thing will look exactly like you want it. Is something wrong with the design? You caused it. Do you want to pick the printer and do all the correspondence and everything? You have full control. That's a great thing. You also have to take the time and talk with all these people. And that means full control. Do you want to get most of the profit with your production? All right. You also have to take care of fulfillment. You also have to take care of everything. If you have any service there, if you maybe work with a designer, a calligrapher, with a logo designer, something like that, have to be paid, right? Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's the one thing. Do you want the full control, or do you want someone to take care of something? That's the advantage and disadvantage. So if you have made a successful Kickstarter campaign, you work with your crowd, you work with your means, with your resources, and I would say, I'm gonna say, probably very generalizing, that you probably don't have the reach that a publisher has. Now, there are different kinds of publishers, obviously, but if you, for example, work with a publisher that already has an established shop, the other products might bring in a new fan base. You don't have to take care of things like accounting, not more than just writing invoices and adding that amount, right? And not with every single bill that you have to prepare, or even if it's automated, you have to take care of and have to be accounted for. There's the aspect of the reach that the publisher has. They have a newsletter, probably. There's the aspect of customer care, of support, right? So you will get a lot of emails. If you have published a book already, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. There are a lot of people having a lot of demands, like, oh my God, the book didn't arrive yet and it's already 2 days. Amazon can do this better. This is something that publishers really have to deal with, especially in the pandemic. It's really, really difficult. There's also the aspect of fulfillment, right? So not only the marketing and like selling the book and doing the walking the extra mile to have the thing there, but also actually walking the extra mile and bringing everything to the post office and having it packed before and send it there, and fulfillment is just absolutely time consuming. So it comes down to, do you want to increase your reach? Do you want to find a new fan base, a new customer base, more important even for a book than a fan base? You want actual buyers? Do you maybe want general advice when it comes to certain things? Do you, when you work with, you might republish it and change the design. You might use different paper. You might change so many things about it because the publisher maybe has a different view and maybe is right about a couple of things. Maybe you can change something and you didn't think about aspects in the first edition, and in the second edition, the publisher will take care of the payment for that and all these things, right? So yeah, it could become easier, but also it comes down to the other question about full control and the problems and the risk that full control brings with it. I hope that was helpful. As a little comment, I might add that it's really important to not take what I just told you as disheartening or as a reason to not dive into crowdfunding or self-publishing. I think that it's good to have a healthy amount of respect for something, but you can prepare for anything with the right partner anyway, right? If you know someone who already went through it, if you have a friend maybe that did a successful crowdfunding campaign, then talk to them. Ask them what their hurdles were in doing this, in making their book, and you probably will be safe so that it doesn't happen to you. And in the end, when it comes to crowdfunding, what is mostly important is transparency with your crowd. If they figure out that you are honest with them, if they understand that you have maybe not everything under control, but that you try, and that the mistakes that happen for a specific reason, but you try your best to work against them, then it should be fine. Of course, there will always be one or two people who are too eager and too invested in the whole thing to take this the bad way, but it's important to not get this to you, right? So it's important to also take care of your mental health, to not overwork when it comes to this. And preparation is the best thing that you can do to counter that.